Oh, hello. Welcome. Welcome to the semi-daily Satsang with Josh Kane. It's my little Satsang song for today. So, Haribol, welcome. Good to see you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you are doing. Turn off my phone. Ooh, wow. Spring has sprung. Spring has sprung. How you guys doing with the text? I know that it's gets a little dense, but we haven't dug too much into the text. I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to talk less today. We're going to chant and sing more, and then we're just going to dive into the reading. I know I say that a lot, and then I still end up talking, but I'm going to do my best today. We're in chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. And we'll start with a little verse 11 from chapter 10. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So the reason why we're here, the reason why we're going through all of this stuff, the reason why we read the text day after day, and why we take time throughout each day to commit to spiritual life, is because we're trying to bring to light that which is in darkness within us. The light of knowledge that lives within our hearts is the knowledge and the understanding that there is always a place that we can turn to. There's always a place where we are welcomed and where we are received. Even if there's yeah, chapter 1 is amazing. It's a lot of people have a hard time with chapter 1 because of all the names, but that's because they're taking the Bhagavad Gita out of context. When the names that are being recited are all very, very holy names of very holy people that you learn about through the story of the Bhagavad. So people read it, they're like, why does it start out with all these names? Why does it start out with all these people? I don't understand why. I don't get it, why that is. And it's like, well, if you were to read the whole story, then you would know where this comes from and where it's going. So there's a place that it's always there for you to turn to. And not a lot of people turn to it. A lot of people feel abandoned. They feel left behind. They feel like outsiders. And I can relate to that because I felt like that for a long time. When you feel like things happen to you and you don't know why they happen to you, you still haven't learned how to take responsibility for things yet. I don't know if that has anything to do with maturity. When you start to turn to this place, when you start to turn towards this energy, the creative energy, the God part of it, if you will, it starts to open up places in your body and in your soul and in your consciousness. You feel how much fighting you've done for so long, how much struggle there's been for so long. This idea that you're doing it on your own, figuring it out on your own, that that you're somehow different or separate or disconnected. And that connection that you seek exists within your heart. It's a connection to spirit, a connection to God, a connection to faith. It's the part of you that seeks goodness even when goodness eludes. It's the part of you that believes in good things, believes that life is worth living. It's the part of you that feels blessed and grateful even when you look around and you see nothing that is a blessing, nothing to be grateful for. It's the part of you that trusts when you have no reason to trust. It's the part of you that loves even when other parts of you don't feel that love reciprocated. It's when you love to love. It's when you trust to be a trusting person. It's when you rest. When you are active and actively taking part in your own purpose, your reason for being. If you travel to this space within your heart, you can connect to the soul of the world, to the soul of all living things. Connect to your own soul, to your own self. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be a feeling of peace or a feeling of certainty. It doesn't need any explanation. You don't have to justify. If it's not there, it's okay. Just doesn't mean that it's gone from you or that you've lost it. It just means that you have a poor signal. So have to keep reaching out in that connection. That's what we're going to do every chant. Sitting, connection to our heart, clear the consciousness, purify ourselves. Start the day with holy vibrations. We're not perfect people. We all have our flaws. That shouldn't stop us from seeking to purify ourselves, seeking humility, wisdom, guidance, support from divinity, from within. Chant the Bhagavad mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Go to that space where your heart. If you don't feel comfortable chanting, you can just listen. We'll repeat this for a while. Get connected to your breath. Block out distractions. Focus on your connection with divinity, connection with yourself and your heart. Start to breathe a little deeper. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Super Soul Farm Ki Jai. Ben Yoga Ki Jai. Sama Yoga Ki Jai. Balance Yoga Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Govinda Ki Jai. Right. To the text, to the text. No rambling, but to the text. Okay, here we go. So we are in chapter 15. Verse 7. The living entities in this conditional world are my fragmental parts, and they are eternal. But due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So this is Krishna saying that everything that's alive is a fragment of himself, and that all life is eternal. But because we are in the conditions of this life, conditioned life implies conditions. And the conditions of this life are interpreted by the senses. And one of those senses is the mind. And when we struggle, we suffer. It's okay to experience contrast, meaning, and this doesn't come from me, this comes from Abraham Hicks, meaning there's only 2 things. There's what's wanted and the absence of what is wanted. All the time, we're only thinking about what we want. The only reason why we think about what we don't want is because we don't have what we do want. When we struggle because we lack the acceptance of that which is, which may not be what we want. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get what we want. It means that we are not fully in the moment saying, okay, this is what it is. I don't have to struggle with this. I can accept this, and then I can make peace with it. But my mind is usually the thing that is preventing me from adopting that perspective. So the mind as a sense is a very tricky sense. Verse 8, the living entity in the material world carries different conceptions of life as the air carries aromas. Thus, taking one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So the air has no preference for what aroma it carries, for what scent it carries. If a scent gets taken into the wind will take it. The wind doesn't say, ew, that doesn't smell good, I'm not taking that to people. The wind and the material world, they don't really have a preference like we have preferences. And I think that's a core truth to really understand. That you're the one with preferences. You're the one with desires. The material world is just being the material world. It doesn't have that same preference that you do. It doesn't have that same doesn't choose the same way that you do. You choose based on what you want, and you choose to get what you want or to avoid what you don't want. But nature just takes it all. Nature just is it all. It doesn't have that same, it just doesn't have that. So in a way, if you can be, even though we don't want to be stuck and ruled by the modes of material nature, we can also learn a lot from them. We can model ourselves a little bit more after material nature, because we have to remember that the material modes are Krishna's creation. They are divine. They are made for us. It starts to get sticky when we struggle with that, when we start to believe too much in our preferences and we stop trusting the flow. We stop trusting that whatever aroma is going to be brought to us is exactly what needs to be brought to us. It could smell beautiful. It could smell horrible. But that horrible smell is coming from something that was created. And because it was created, even though it might smell bad, still part of creation, still part of the eternal, so you can't really knock it. Okay, you just gotta say thank you for it. 9. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a particular type of ear, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, centered about the mind, thus enjoying a particular set of sense objects. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit the body, or what sort of body is enjoyed under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see this. So this is the transmigration of the soul, where the living entity going from body to body, and in each body has different preferences. A certain set of eyes, a certain set of ears, a certain set where it's not just that you have eyes and that you have ears and they see whatever, they have no preference. When you're born into a new body, your eyes do have a preference. When you're born into a new body, your ears and your nose, your sense of touch, the things that you want, the things that you don't want, you are born with preferences, and you are born with discernment, right? Attraction and aversion. And there is enjoyment in that. There is, and there can be a lot of joy in that. However, the foolish don't understand. When they say the fool doesn't understand how he can quit the body, that's not necessarily implying death. That's implying I'm going to quit the body, meaning there has to come a time where I accept that the body and the senses are only going to get me so far. And then I have to quit that. I have to let that go. Because I'm not looking just for sense enjoyment. I'm not just looking for the temporary. I'm not looking for just a quick fix. I seek the eternal. That which is within me, that which lives within you, that which created all of this. That is the connection. That's the transcendental connection of Krishna consciousness, is to go beyond the temporary and seek the eternal. The endeavoring transcendentalist, who is situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly. But those who are not situated in self-realization, though they may try, cannot see what is taking place. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this universe, is due to me. And the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. So even at the very root cause, even at the most fundamental level of light and heat and the turning of the spheres, this is not just saying that, oh, look at the sun. Like I made the sun. And Krishna is not just saying, yeah, no, that's the sun is there, and I made that. And then then the sun just lives on its own. No. Everything that's related to the process and the purpose of the sun, the process and the purpose of the moon, the process and the purpose of fire, all of its essence, all of its reason, all of its dharma comes from divinity. So the sun has a particular function that is not just shining up in space. There's a lot that is literally revolving and relying on the sun. And so to know that that sun controls so many things, so many aspects of our lives, so much of our consciousness is determined by sunlight. I mean, it's amazing. All of that had to be conceived somewhere and planned and perfected so that when inserted into a system like this reality, that it works, that there are laws, that there's constants that we can rely on, that there are eternal truths, that the sun rises and sets is an eternal truth. And I think that that's why the first yogi, the first disciple of Krishna, of Supreme Personality, was the sun and the sun god, because that first disciple was taking on a huge responsibility to be steady in that task of rising and setting every single day, same time. Yeah, there's a little bit of fluctuation, there's a little bit of movement, there's a slight tilt, right, in the orbit, there's a little wobble on the axis, scientific talk. However, that first student, in order to become a master, had to learn how to be so steady, so fixed, as though neutral. The sun, if you look up in the sky, the sun is seated as though neutral. It doesn't see it. The sun's not dancing around in the sky. It doesn't just move from place to place. It very slowly, very gradually takes its orbit. It seems like it's not moving, but if you watch it for a while, you notice day turns to night, night turns to day. And this is reliable. This is reliable. Very few of us have the same steadiness, the same commitment, the same discipline as the sun. That first true disciple, the first true yogi was the sun. I thought about that the other day. I was kind of like, well, that's a cool realization. Now I get it. I get why. You talk about first chapter, you talk about going back. If we're going back to something, let's go back to why was the sun the first one that was chosen? Well, probably because the sun has a pretty big responsibility. The splendor of the sun, I'm just going to read this again, which dissipates the darkness of this universe, is due to me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire are also from me. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, these stay in orbit. I become the moon, and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the 4 kinds of foods. So it can seem as though Krishna is just bragging and taking credit for things. I mean, like, oh, me, I'm the best. However, this is teaching us. It's teaching us about digestion. That digestion is fire. that within us, we have alchemical processes that are taking place. The air of life, different than just regular air, right? This is the air of life, prana, energy, which comes in and goes out. It's a two-part system. Stuff comes in, gives life to the receiver. Stuff goes out, life is given back to the giver. Everything is cyclical. Again, going back to the sun. The cycle of the sun, the cycles of life. All of this is measured, it's ordered, and it works in a specific process, a specific way, according to certain eternal rules and eternal truths. And if you want to struggle, or if you are struggling, you might be struggling because you are not obeying. You're not surrendering, is really a better word. Because everybody obeys. Everybody adheres to these laws, whether or not in your mind you want to or not. Because you're creating, you can commit suicide, then you can end, but according to this, you'll just come right back. And you'll have to go through all of this all over again. So here, now, we can accept that we are part of a process. We are part of an ordered system. Religion and culture appropriate the system, and certain individuals and certain leaders and certain people take credit for it. And they try to say, well, we're going to create this system of society on top of the natural order. And they're using the natural order as a model for that. But then they're trying to take human credit for it. And that's something that we're trying to avoid. We do want to be organized, and we do want to be intentional. That is very important. However, we have to be careful of the credit that we're trying to take, or the acknowledgement or the praise that we're trying to give ourselves for trying to come up with some kind of a system or some kind of a plan for how things are going to work. There's already a plan in place. The sun rises and sets. All of the planets are the planets, right? I think that's like just random. It's not. The planets are already handling this system. You and I are part of that. And being part of that, in our consciousness, we will have preferences and we will have aversions. We don't have to effort to attract our preferences to us. They are just going to come to us. And believe it or not, our aversions are also going to be attracted to us too, because we're going to be thinking about both. We're going to be vibrating in the frequency of both what we want and what we lack. What is wanted and the absence of what is wanted. We'll be vibrating in both. And what we have to remind ourselves is that there is a plan that's in place. There is a plan that is in place. There is a plan. There is a plan that is in place. Nothing is random. You're not just stuck here on a rock, spinning in space out in the middle of nowhere for no reason. There is a plan. Now, just because you cannot conceive of the entire plan and you are suffering right now because you don't like the spot in the plan that you're at, doesn't mean that there isn't a plan and that it's all random and you're just being abused or held down or limited. I should have an endorsement. I've been saying this for years. I should reach out to Kleenex and get a tissue endorsement, because no matter how much I try, nasal spray and 2 pills, and I'm still like this. Maybe it's nerves. I actually started to feel like when I'm put on the spot, and I get like excited or I get nervous, that this actually, like the inflammation actually gets like keyed up in a weird way. I don't know. It's strange. Anyways, there is a plan. Just because you are not in the place where you thought that you could be. Bhagavad Gita brought to you by Kleenex. Exactly. All right. No. I sniff now. Oh, man. Sorry. It's all happening for a reason, whether we can see and understand that reason or not. And then the person of true intelligence knows to trust that reason, even amidst times of suffering and struggle, which happens to be pretty relevant. Right now, it's been relevant for about a month. I mean, it's been relevant for eternity, but especially within the past month, we've been getting aft. All right. Verse 15. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I know the Vedas as they are. I am situated and seated in everyone's heart. Just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean that you are not part of God, that God is not part of you. And that's explained by, from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So you can remember, and then you gain some, you remember that you're part of God, right? That God's part of you. It's all this beautiful plan. Then you get some knowledge, and you think that you have that knowledge, and then you forget that it comes from God, and you forget that it comes from divinity, and you circle back into that cycle all over again, where you think that you're God with your knowledge and your ability, and your blah, 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 and you forget. And so again, cycles, remembering and forgetting, living and dying, inhaling and exhaling. It's all providing this universal tension that holds it all together. Why? I don't know. That's just what the plan is. At some point you have to be able to say, I don't know why, but I trust it. I don't know why the sun rises and sets every day, but I'm grateful for it and I trust it. I don't know why I'm breathing in and out, but I'm thankful for it and I trust it. It can be kind of simple. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every entity is called fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is called infallible. Purport. Here the Lord is giving, in summary, the contents of the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra and the Veda are, it's like the spiritual law. It's like the writings that, the ancient writings that kind of outline what it means to live according to this code of a balance with nature and the self, and different rituals and different stories and different teachings, I guess you could say, different teachings and different models that give us, that gave us and gave those cultures and those that from that time and even now, give us a plan. So here we're sitting, situated within the material realms, and rather than just have us wander aimlessly and look up at the sun, be like, "Oh my God, the sun's back," and it goes away, we get really sad. The moon comes, oh, the moon is here. Oh, it's really, and went away. Now the sun's here. It's like, what do? You're just staring around at nature, just running around looking for food, having sex, not like, this is like, we're talking about like cave people here, like before any of this stuff. And then a few people went in, the sages, the mystics, They were blessed with the consciousness of transcendence. And they were the compilers of the Vedas. Vyas, one of them, one of these great mystics and one of these great sages who was a potent poet. And he's, even in the Gita, he's identified as a supreme incarnation, because as an incarnation of Krishna, because that is one of the people, one of the vessels, one of the channels. When Vyas arrived, Vyas's connection, his remembrance was so clear and so strong that he could actually tap into that plan, that universal plan. He was programmed in a way where he had access in a very poetic way to this knowledge. And it's implied that he was given that access because of the level of his, I don't want to say the level of his manifestation. He was manifested with a particular dharma from Krishna. And that dharma was to compile the Vedas. And then in that sort of sparks this whole wave of sages and mystics and people who are intimately connected with this divine knowing, this divine understanding. And it starts to gather energy towards that. And it gives us a reference. The writings like this give us a continuous reference throughout the ages to return back to. This is a form of remembering. It's the flag on the moon. It's you know, it's like it's like the planting of the great tree, that it just stays and it lives. And every time you return back to that tree, you're reminded at some point that tree was planted. And it stays and it lives for us to keep returning back to keep harvesting fruit from, to keep gathering shade, right? And learning from this natural process. Let's continue with the purport. The living entities, who are innumerable, can be divided into two classes, the fallible and the infallible. The living entities are eternally separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they are in contact with the material world, they are called Jiva Bhuta, and the Sanskrit words given here, Sarvani Bhutani, mean that they are fallible. Those who are in oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, are called infallible. Oneness means not that they have no individuality, but that there is no disunity. They are all agreeable to the purpose of the Lord. Even if you are out of harmony, even if you are lacking faith, even if you're evil and mean and dark, God still loves you. Everything is agreeable with the purpose of the Lord. So when you judge others, when you vilify others, when you demonize others, you are not in transcendental consciousness. It doesn't matter what they did or didn't do. When we demonize, when we vilify, when we condemn others, and when we judge others, we are not seeing with the eyes of the Lord. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. As your feelings get hurt, you start to see people doing bad things. It doesn't mean that there isn't evil in the world. It does not mean that there isn't evil in the world. There is. But the evil and the good work together to create the tension of existence. Again, why? I don't know. That's the way it is. 17. Besides these two, which is the fallible and the infallible of living entities, there is the greatest living personality, the Lord himself, who has entered into these worlds and is maintaining them. I think that's why God is masculine in this, because of the insertion of, this is a sexual thing, but that God inserts itself into these worlds and then maintains them. I don't know. Verse 18, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person. Anyone who knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead, without doubting, is to be understood as the knower of everything, and therefore engages in full devotional service. It comes a point where you reach a crossroads where you have to make a choice. And you don't have to call it Krishna. You don't have to call it anything. You can simply have this knowing within your heart and hold it. To know that there is a beingness that is greater than all of us. It is beyond life and death. The concepts of life and death and all of their processes, the concept of cycles, the concept of opposites, the concept of everything, light and dark, hot and cold, right and wrong, all stem from a place that is beyond all of that. Pure oneness that then fragmented, we don't know why, oneness that fragmented and then reunites. Maybe, I don't know. I just trust. Verse 20. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, disclosed now by me. Anyone who understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So that's here. Between 19 and 20, the purport between 19 and 20. There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the supreme absolute truth. Now, in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna as the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The difference between a perfect knower and an imperfect knower is that the imperfect knower simply goes on speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Throughout the whole of Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step. Yet there remain so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who unnecessarily try to make the Supreme Absolute Truth and the living entities one and the same. So we are not the same as God. We are not the same as Krishna. We have an essence and a light, a seed, a force within us that is connected to Krishna, And it is something that we can enjoy and that we can revel and relish in. And it will inspire us. However, being in devotional service, and what is devotional service? The sun is devotional service. It's consistent. There may be days where the sun doesn't want to do what it does, but it does it. I can't imagine the amount of discipline that it takes to hold all this together. Maybe it doesn't take discipline. Maybe it was just like see, this is the speculative nature, though. This is where I start getting into ignorance and speculating about why it is one way or another, which is distraction from devotional service. It would be better for me to just sit here and chant and say, thank you, sun. Thank you, moon. Thank you, body. Thank you, Kirtan. Thank you, Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, Vyas. You all exist. Thank you, Claudine. Thank you, friends and family and enemies and former partners and, lovers and haters. Thank you, all of it. You all exist. You're all here. We're all here together. Cool. Cool. Thank you. No more speculation. No more wondering why or wondering if or wondering how. Just saying it is. It is. What more proof do you need that there's a plan than the sun rising and setting? And if the yoga of the Supreme Person is that consistency in the world but not of the world, then our yoga is modeled after this process of saying there's certain things. You can speculate on it all you want, but those things are happening. And that's just what we got to do. Because that's part of our plan. It's part of our purpose. I guarantee you, as soon as I stop this, as soon as I turn this off, this is all going to change. Oh, man. Well, I'm glad we made it through this chapter. The divine and the demoniac natures are coming up next in chapter 16. And then we will have, let's see, general index. Yeah, we only have 2 chapters left, 16, 17, and 18. Wow, it's amazing. It only took us a month-ish. All right, well, I hope that you have a wonderful day today. Claudine, thank you for your humor and for your participation today. I'm glad you're always here. Happy to serve you. Thank you to all who are tuning in after the fact and checking this out. There haven't been many of you yet, but that's fine. I don't really promote it, it just kind of sits there. But so grateful to be here today. So thankful for the body, thankful for the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Thank you to this space that we inhabit. Thank you to all of our teachers. And thank you so much to the practice and the spiritual science of yoga and self-realization. Thank you so much for letting me serve you. And thank you for sharing your practice with me today. I teach yoga. I don't talk about this that much. I should probably talk about it in the beginning and not at the end. I did read. I can read it again. Let's see. We'll close with it. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, disclosed now by me. Anyone who understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Good call. All right. If you are interested in practicing yoga with me, reach out, send me a message. I'll send you my schedule. I'm working on updating my website now, and I should probably do a little video on here talking about that. So maybe that'll come out soon. But either way, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Keep reading the Gita. Keep the faith, and see you real soon. Aho. Namaste. Word up. Take care.